which is the Flemish fan community here in Belgium. I am your moderator for today's event. So I also have lovely panel members here, which I am going to introduce to you all so you know who is a part of it. First of all, we have Mr. Kim, who is a music critic and also the author of BTS The Review. He will be the one to give you your presentation today. Next up, we have Ms. Donia Saidani, who is the representative of BTS Belgium. Then we have Ms. Lucille Defaudet, who is the chief editor of the K-World magazine. We have Ulrike van Damme, K-pop journalist for Newsmonkey. And then last but not least, Sosa and Özlem, who are the YouTube duo called Differently Alike. So today's goal is to have Mr. Kim tell you about BTS' unprecedented success and the essence of their artistry. Basically, he will tell you about the rise of BTS in the age of globalization and how the BTS phenomenon has really represented the evolution and the revolution of K-pop in the 21st century. Now, of course, after the whole representation, we are going to have a Q&A moment for both the panel and the viewers, so do not hesitate to ask any questions in either the Zoom chat or on YouTube live chat. So, first of all, we are going to start with the whole presentation, so please have your undivided attention for that. Thank you.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
Hi, my name is Youngdae Kim. Music critic and ethnomusicologist and author of the book BTS The Review. I'm here because I wrote that book. I know that. But we will also talk about K-pop in general too, because BTS has two different aspects. I wrote a lot about it in my book, but BTS as K-pop group is one thing, and also BTS as very unique band, distinguished from other K-pop bands as well. So that's what Sophie said. It's evolution and revolution. So evolution, by that I mean, BTS still as a K-pop group has everything that previous K-pop bands had. But as a very unique group, BTS kind of paved the way for a new model. I mean, creating a new model for current and next generation of K-pop. So we definitely could get insight from their success and how they create music, how they interact with their fans, how they promote and introduce themselves to the larger public. So I'm not really talking about anything really new that you don't know. Because I mean we all K-pop fans here. I see I'm the only male member here. So you would definitely see that K-pop scene is kind of female dominant scene or industry. I don't know. So I would like to share some of my personal stories that would rethink the nature of BTS as musician, artist, performer, and human being as well. And I think it's really important because we always talk about industry, strategy, key ingredients or secret ingredient or something like that. But as a critic who's been covering K-pop for more than 2 decades, there's no something like that. I mean, there's no really that secret. I mean, every agencies, every companies, every artist has their own way to be successful. And at the same time, success is not everything. It's basically, K-pop is an art. K-pop is, artistic kind of, process and a behavior. So if you're not even if you're not really successful, you're not, it's not really a failure at the same time. So, I mean, I will not talk about like kind of commercial strategic, approach here. I talk about, what are some of the things that makes BTS somewhat really different, but at the same time very similar, and how we can regard this whole K-pop scene as a culture, as an industry, to be more recognized or properly understood in times of globalization and in times of racism, xenophobia, and everything. So, well, geez, where should I start? It was 2013, I guess. I heard from my close friend and fellow journalist, probably most well-known hip-hop critic in South Korea, Youngdae Kim. I interviewed him in my book, so you can read detailed interview with him on the book BTS The Review. But he said there's a new group coming up, and it was made by producer Bang Si-hyuk, who didn't really have a success by the time. He released several artists, produced several albums, but those were not really that successful at the time. But he's preparing he said he was preparing a new group called BTS, in Korean language, 방탄소년단. I thought the name itself was weird, really weird. 방탄소년단, Black Boy Scout. But at the same time, I was really intrigued because, well, here's the story. Hip-hop journalist Kim Bong-hyun and I co-wrote a book called 한국 hip-hop, Korean hip-hop, 열정의 발자취, is a footstep of passion. It was first like kind of historical account of early hip-hop, earlier phase of Korean hip-hop. And the book ended with the arrival of Big Bang and some of the kind of remarks on the future of Korean hip-hop. And we, Bong-hyun and I all thought we should write this book because we believed at the time that Korean hip-hop was dying. So we thought this will be end of Korean hip-hop and we have no future. So our thought is that we should write a book before it's too late. But the reality is Korean hip-hop is actually really flourishing after then, right after the book. So it was bad timing, I believe. Anyway, so after we wrote that book, we kind of like researched, studied. I as an ethnomusicology student, kind of researched Korean American movement, K-pop, Korean hip hop in general. He as a music hip hop journalist, started to cover the whole like landscape of Korean hip hop. Then he gave this information. Producer Bang Si-hyuk really had this great idea of combining two different things in one package. One is hip hop and one is idol. Well, BTS is definitely not the first group that embraced the elements of hip hop in Korean pop music history. We had, it was there since the beginning. Sotaeji and the Boys, Sotaejiwa Idol, definitely probably the prototype of Korean boy group. Their earlier start is definitely hip hop. Two of the members of Taeji Boys are underground hip hop dancers, so definitely they made sure that they're from hip hop scene. And H.O.T., as you know, probably the earliest really K-pop idol was based on hip hop and urban music as well. And then one time, late 1990s, early 2000, there was a group called One Time that YG created. They definitely claimed themselves as a hip hop act. At the same time, idol group. Then we had kind of second generation of quote unquote hip hop idol. There, before BTS, we had BAP, Block B, some other bands I don't remember at this point, but a lot of like company CEO and producer had kind of similar approach, similar mindset that, well, hip hop is a new thing. Hip hop is definitely the next big thing. And we have had this, long history and lineage of idol boy group that embrace, somewhat hip hop-ish or hip hop kind of elements from the beginning. So why not we, actively combining together in more refined form? That's what producer at the time believed. So again, BAP, and they're all kind of somewhat self-produced group, following the footsteps of Big Bang and One Time, Taeji Boys and other great bands. So that idea was not completely new. So my interest in BTS at the time was not just the interest in BTS group itself, but more of an interest in the kind of shift in K-pop scene. So what is this? Would this change the game? Could this change the landscape of K-pop? Could this change the concept of K-pop or perception of K-pop, from Western journalists, from Western media, or from other, K-pop fans? Because by the time of 2010, 2012, K-pop is becoming a really popular thing in the U.S., in Europe. SM Town. A lot of you, the students, remember the success of SM Town and Big Bang's first U.S. tour. And in 2012, definitely, Psy's Gangnam Style really wrote a name, of South Korea on the map of music, international music. Nobody knew by the time before Psy's Gangnam Style. Not many people really knew that South Korea is actually making music. They regarded it as one of those Asian, one of those like exotic, something crazy internet virals. But Psy's Gangnam Style actually remind people that South Korea is actually leading the game, not just in Asia, in the world actually. So it changed the game. So, early 2010s, 2012, 2013, people really started to pay attention to K-pop. Then this new model called hip hop idol that came out. So I thought, okay, in the age of globalization with this a lot of attention and interest from Western world, United States, Europe, could this change, this nature of K-pop fundamentally? Because at the time, one of the biggest issue was, Western's point of view, still Western's point of view on K-pop as kind of unnatural, like factory forged, not really authentic music. It all started with this notorious, I'll say notorious article written by a journalist and New Yorker at the time. It's called Factory Girls. So his claim was that, K-pop's totally factory forged, everything is under, controlled by the agency, even smile, behavior and music and dance, everything. Well, that claim, that idea is definitely true in certain way, but it just so dominated the whole discourse of K-pop. So people started to build this kind of negative ideas on K-pop as not really organic, not really human, music. And that kind of reputation, I think, still continues to exist right now as well, from a lot of negative comments and racist comments from the media, including the German radio host about the BTS performance on MTV Unplugged. I definitely believe that you already you're familiar with the comment, so why this so problematic, why this so racist comment and everything. But I like to point out, no, I'm actually suggesting this. Instead of just blaming him for a racist comment and pointing out that this is racist, I want to fight. I want to debate. I want to discuss it with him or other Western, I don't know, other Western, rock supremacists or rockists or experts who believe that K-pop is somewhat inferior than rock or other, authentic music. Why is that? Why do you believe that? Because pop is inferior than rock? Because music must be somewhat authentic or self-produced? Dance music is essentially worse than rock music or something like that. Let's talk about it. That's my suggestion. Instead of simply, saying that you're racist, that's the racist comment. I mean, that's one thing. Racism is really, really bad, really big issue here. But if you read that, statement from of that German broadcaster, German radio host, it has really different layers in it. He definitely makes a racist statement, racist remark, but then he started to talk about, he used the word blasphemy, because BTS covered Coldplay. It's not just BTS as an individual or Coldplay as an individual band. He clearly, he's clearly making sure that boy band, Asian, dance group covering authentic, more superior rock band is a bad idea. So I want to fight them. I want to fight that idea anytime. So I think you as a K-pop, I don't know, journalist, YouTuber, creator, should do that too. I mean, because we are so confident. I believe you're so confident that it's not that. That's not true. K-pop is not inferior, and or judging K-pop based on the pre-existing idea of what is good music and what is better music. It's not really good. I mean, we have different standards, and we have different ideas of good music and what think about it. What about performance? Nobody really talks about performance. A lot of music critics and music journalists, they only talk about music. They talk about how authentic, how superior this music as as a sound, as a lyric, as a production. But nobody really values the high-level artistic performance of K-pop group. So why not considering that aspect as an ingredient for good music? So I think this really is a good discussion, and I'm always ready for that discussion, for that I'll say again, fight. So that's something I want to talk about regarding that Bayern 3, the German radio host remarks. And other thing I want to talk about is the Grammy. I mean, everyone's upset, especially the Army. They're really upset about this result of Grammy's latest award. BTS got nominated in the Best Pop Duo or Group category. Obviously did not win. But I have a huge problem with Korean media and how they deal with this situation. You know, most of headlines would say BTS failed to win, you know, or misfire or something like that. But it's not really fair because nobody's ever done that before. And you know, like you know, Oscar, Grammy, especially for those two awards, nomination itself is an honor. You know, everyone knows that. So we talked a lot about how prestigious the award is, how it is almost impossible for Asian acts to be nominated in the mainstream of a mainstream award, Grammy. Then all of a sudden, we talk about failure. You know, if you look at your favorite artist, Grammy-winning artist, and look at their resume, you will see, you know, words like 3-time Grammy-nominated artist, not 3-time Grammy, not winning the Grammy Awards artist. You know what I mean? It's totally, you know, nonsense to talk about failure based on the results. I mean, nomination itself is an honor, and for K-pop in general, I think it's totally changed the perspective in K-pop. You know, because not many mainstream audience, not many music fans or consumers was able to recognize K-pop as a legitimate thing before this Grammy. You know, we as K-pop fans, K-pop industry insiders, we definitely know it has existed for a very long time. It is legit. It is a huge global phenomenon, but not many mainstream general audiences, you know, was able to understand it. But through that nomination and the success, I you know, dare to say success rather than failure. So through that nomination, you know, people would finally understand the gravity of this K-pop industry and the phenomenon, how unique that phenomenon of BTS is, and also, you know, possibility of, you know, future of K-pop. You know, the BTS paved the way for future K-pop bands to be recognized by the general public and, you know, mainstream insiders of music industry who previously didn't fully, you know, grasp the significance of it. So that's another thing that I want to talk about. 이미 2장 지나간 것 같은데요. 그러면 저 파워포인트 3번째 장부터. 네. Yeah. Well, time flies really quickly. So I think I already read the comments and the questions you sent to me, and those questions are really interesting, and those questions are kind of overlapped with my presentation. So rather than just simply, saying everything right here. I'm just kind of throwing some ideas and kind of like summarizing my ideas of evolution of and revolution of BTS in K-pop scene and in global scene as well. So first thing that I will talk about is, okay, nowadays, especially Western media, calls BTS the greatest K-pop boy band on the planet, or the greatest boy band on the planet. So let's dissect these two different ideas. First of all, boy band. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that because I know that's the only kind of translation of current K-pop scene. They established this scene first. U.S., British, Western world built this, world in popular music. So they have their own definition of category that would define K-pop. So I know that's a limitation, but it's just what it is. So I don't really have a huge problem, but I want to point out that the most important thing is K-pop should not be treated as a same genre as American or British boy band or girl group tradition. It inspired by that. K-pop, historically, K-pop's been inspired by both Western ideas of boy band or girl group and Japanese industry of idol. But they combine those two elements together to create something unique and something bigger than that. So even though we still call BTS or other boy bands or idol group boy band, it's not a right word to describe their artistry and their musicality. Because we should go back to all the way to the 1960s, Motown, Berry Gordy, Phil Spector's ideas of boy band, girl groups tradition. They're essentially a vocal group trained, produced by, composers. Well, K-pop somewhat follow that model. We have agencies, we have really kind of charismatic CEO or chief producers who controlled everything, including music, image, and everything. But first of all, K-pop is no longer, or K-pop was never really a bubblegum pop music. American pop music, American boy bands, British boy band, they're highly, they never been a more than boy band pop bands, bubblegum pop bands. Their music is good, their music is really catchy, but nobody regarded those boy bands or girl group as more than bubblegum pop music. It's fun to listen to, it's good to dance to. It was really, easy listening kind of music. But K-pop, since the beginning, since the Seo Boys era, it was really complex music. The performance is superior. So rather than, considering them as a good singers with some moves, K-pop is more of a, high-level performer who can rap, sing, and dance, everything together. So it's more of a total package. Also, they're cute, really cute. So K-pop is not simply a Western not simply following the typical Western type of bubblegum boy band music. It is not. It is more than that. More complex, more creative. And in terms of genre, they cover everything. From rock, hip hop, folk, EDM. And if you really paying attention to the music of BTS, I always thought, even though they're really good to listen to, it is not really easy, or it is not always easy. You know, it really gives you some challenge, you know, to digest the music. You know, lyrics is very complex. You know, music is definitely, it is not really genre-based music, but it has really, you know, the complex formula. It has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but as a whole, it really creates something unique and complex that, you know, that not many people instantly understand everything. You know, you have to listen to it again and again to find every little details, you know, from lyrics to the arrangement. So it is not a typical bubblegum pop music, you know. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not just BTS, but BTS definitely took it to the next level, including highly, you know, philosophical lyrics that tells you about the agony, you know, struggles of youth. What about Love Yourself? You know, Map of the Soul. It's more like a title of a book or a textbook or, you know, academic research or something like that. But in pop music, those are the things that people normally avoid. As a producer, as a composer, those are like, you know, kind of things that you should not do it, because it really keeps general public from really paying attention to it, you know, fall in love with it, because it sounds complicated. It sounds less commercially appealing. But BTS actually doing that. Well, they definitely have a huge fandom who would support them anyways. But, you know, they're really ambitious in a way. They're not limit themselves within the, you know, easy listening bubblegum pop music like Western boy bands or girl groups. They also distinguish themselves from pre-existing K-pop idols with their highly philosophical, socially charged, raw and authentic lyrics. In terms of authenticity, I have a really interesting experience. Again, back to 2013, 14, K-pop journalist Kim Bong-hyun and I talk a lot of this issue, you know, because traditionally hip-hop is right here and pop or boy bands music right there. Like two extreme, you know, two genres in the, you know, two extremely different genres. You know, hip-hop is more always about who you are, who are you representing, you know, where are you from, all about identity and authenticity. Pop music is all about like control, produce, you know, sometimes overproduced or like highly designed by the mastermind of producers. So would this make sense if we combine these two things together? I think it was really interesting mixture, because if you look at the career of BTS, they have slowly changed from more typical hip-hop idol to pop bands. But for them, this idea of hip-hop and authenticity and true to yourself still remains. I mean, I'm not really talking about the Cypher series or more typical hip-hop tracks of BTS. Their attitude still remains. Their attitude are always same. When they sing, all the hip-hop tracks like Cypher, or when they sing Spring Day, when they sing Fake Love, On, their attitude of hip-hop, I think it's definitely hip-hop because, I mean, a lot of members of BTS came from actually from the scene. Two of them are the underground, used to be underground rappers. One of them straight singer. So they definitely had that identity, whether they're more consciously hip-hop idol or not. But for me, I was kind of skeptical at the same time, because I knew that this was produced by the agency producer Bang Si-hyuk, composer Slow Rabbit and P-Dog. So I was kind of skeptical until I really met them. That was not open interview. I didn't really, wrote it in my book, quoted in my book or anything. It was really kind of personal experience with them. It was 2018 Billboard Music Award at the site, at the hotel. I was really fortunate to have like 45 minutes of the interview. It was designed as a 15 minutes interview. That's the kind of normal time slot for any like media coverage, media interview. But while they're speaking, they keep extending the time, extending the duration, so that they can talk more about their music. They can talk more about their, experience as a human being, as an artist. You know what? When I had an interview with them at the same time, I can definitely see them as a person. Same person that I saw, that I listened to in the music. It was really amazing experience. Before meeting them, I was like kind of skeptical. Well, they're idols. I didn't have like high expectation of it especially in terms of authenticity, how their message is true to themselves, or how it is, real or authentic. But meeting with them totally changed my mind. It totally changed the whole concept of authenticity and BTS and the relationship between them. So after then, I came to truly believe that this is from them. Even though the lyrics, the song was co-produced by other professionals, like I said, P-Dog, Slow Rabbit and Bang Si-hyuk, I definitely can see their personality, in them. The same personality that I experienced during the interview. So it was so amazing experience. And I think that genuineness, that, they talked about a lot of things that I can't really tell using the kind of, the media outlet. It was so raw, they just frankly talk about everything, about their music, their life, and their relationship with other artists and everything. It was really delicate sometimes, but that experience really taught me that, BTS is definitely different, but at the same time, a lot of other idols could be, genuine in a way. We tend to see them as stars, as some acts that produced by professionals, but at the same time, they're really, really personal. They're really human. Their music is really human and genuine. I think that's something we keep talking, you know, in the discussion of K-pop, especially discussion with, you know, Western journalists who still believe that K-pop or BTS is not organic. It's just one of the factory-made products. Yeah, I think there are a lot of questions, good questions coming up. So I'm gonna stop here with
yes,
my
I think it's
a
great moment to transfer ourselves to the questions from the panel,
Right.
because a lot of their questions also touch a little bit up on all these subjects, and it might be interesting. Meanwhile, all of you viewers, you can still ask questions in preparation for the next Q&A round where we will ask your questions. So please do send us any message you want to ask in either YouTube or Zoom chat. And then we are going to start with the question from Ms. Lucille Defaudet. Please ask your question.
Yeah, my question was, do you think it will be possible for another group to achieve something even greater than BTS in the next few years? Because when we think about BTS right now, we think that they achieved pretty much everything that was possible because they did stuff that no Korean artist before did. So do you think someone can come after BTS and claim other things?
That's a tough question. Yeah, that's definitely the tough question. I mean, who knows? I mean, BTS paved the way, and something greater than that would definitely be possible. I want to make this analogy. You know, back in the 60s, there was a huge British music phenomenon in the U.S. called British invasion. Beatles was one of them. Rolling Stones was one of them, and there are a lot of British acts that we don't remember right now. Was there any British group bigger than the Beatles? Probably not, but were there really good, amazing British acts after the Beatles? Definitely. So, well, it's impossible to answer that question in a certain way because nobody would know that, you know, a group or artist bigger than BTS is coming. Yeah, possible. I don't know, but. Did BTS open the gate, open the scene, you know, for the bigger bands, you know, the bands or acts or K-pop artists to become great or greater than BTS? Yes.
I think it might be very interesting to sort of connect this to Esosa's question. So, Esosa, if you would like to share your question.
Yeah, my question was actually in the same vein of hers, as in what other smaller or bigger companies can learn from Big Hit's strategy, and what do the big three companies maybe have to rethink in their approach of marketing their groups? Because like you said previously, like all of these K-pop groups and bands, they kind of do this similar things in the same that they could be also very authentic. But what's then the difference? Why has BTS been able to grow into what they are today, and why haven't other groups been able to do that? Is that something that the company can help them into achieve for the future?
Yeah, I don't necessarily call that strategy, but what I really love about the approach that Big Hit, especially producer Bang Si-hyuk's approach to music, it's very simple. It is very simple logic to allow artists, to have an artistic freedom, to have artistic mindset, to explore themselves as an artist, to explore themselves as performers, not just a singer or dancer who just follow everything that producer or company CEO has made. And I think that aspect really made BTS the greatest K-pop band of all time. Mm-hmm. I think that's what that's the thing, that's the key ingredient that make many people believe that BTS is different. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's up to them.
I think in relationship to what you are discussing right now, we are going to Ulrike van Damme's question, because I think that's an interesting addition as well.
Yeah, my question is if there's something that K-pop companies and K-pop groups can do to gain more respect from the critics and like the Grammys and stuff, because BTS was nominated for a Grammy, but they weren't nominated for an actual big category, like Album of the Year, which they actually deserved. So is there something the companies can do, and can fans contribute to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is really, really difficult, to get recognition from especially old conservative music professionals who still believe that, this boy band, K-pop, is just a passing fad or something not genuine. So instead of, well, we could have two different approaches, I think. One approach is to discuss with them, persuade them, to give them a lot of information that would change their minds. But at the same time, we need to, well, sounds very funny, but we need to force them to accept this with this great power of K-pop fandoms. Because, sometimes this industry, they would not accept until they believe that they need to accept. You know what I mean? They're not voluntarily accept something new automatically. They would accept something if they really believe that they have to adapt. You know what I mean? So as K-pop fans, as ARMY, whoever you are, you really have to discuss with them, but also you have to teach them and make some pressure on them to accept this new thing. I think, especially in this type of landscape of media and the hierarchy, that's some useful strategy for us as a fans of marginalized music, marginalized industry. So, yeah.
Okay, so next up is the question from Özlem.
Yes, so my question has already been answered a little bit actually, but my question was, what pushed you to study BTS and their success?
Yeah, I mean, it's simple. I thought, back in 2014, I thought, well, I consider them as one of the hip hop acts that would change the game. But as time progressed, I personally believe that BTS is definitely something new in terms of a lot of different things. I mean, music, lyrics, performance, and I didn't really have the time to talk about the fandoms, but this fandom really one of the major force that changed my mind. I mean, I've been in the industry for a very long time, so I'm very familiar with a lot of K-pop fans. But ARMY was something really different. I mean, one of the things that really I felt different you know, army from other fandoms, they're so into this discussion. You know, they really eager to talk with critics, journalists about their musicality, about artistry, about like, you know, racial, what is that? Xenophobia, you know, racism and everything. They're so into that discussion, and I think that really propelled the status BTS more serious band, because fans are serious. You know, they're so into it. I think it was really impressive thing that I've ever witnessed. And you know, what about the translator account? I mean, the fan translators. I've seen fan translator for a very long time in this business, but there's so many. They instantly change their idea, you know, globally. Well, many years ago, fans are very, you know, separated with each other. You know, Korean fans are Korean fans, local fans, US fans, European fans. But BTS really kind of created this new trend of uniting different fandoms together under the name of ARMY, you know, I Lovely, or what other name. You know, they kind of changed the vibe, changed the real relationship between different fandoms to create. I think the one factor is that BTS from smaller company, so they believe that they needed each other. They still need each other to promote this band globally, to support them. So I think that unity, you know, that tight relationship between fandoms, and they're so like passionate attitude in every field, like relationship with media, relationship with other celebrities, other fans, and you know, a lot of fan wars, discussing what makes them different, you know, what makes them sometimes superior, you know, something like that. I don't want to start a new fan wars here, so that's about it. But I think it's really interesting phenomenon. The army.
Do you feel like the whole concept of the fandoms within K-pop is a key element as well?
Excuse me?
Do you feel like the whole concept of the fandoms within K-pop is a key element of K-pop?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, K-pop fandom is, I think, a combination of two different things. One is kind of traditional idea of like, you know, boy band, like according to Western type of description, avid, you know, passionate supporter. But at the same time, K-pop fandom is not just that. K-pop fandom, well, for instance, ARMY, they're combination of really passionate supporter, but at the same time, really active participants. You know, this active participant, not really a type of fandom that pop or boy band type of fandoms witness traditionally. It is more of a fandom, fans of rock or folk or progressive rock or hip hop music, because they're always ready for debate, for discussion, seriously about music. You know, not just, you know, screaming, you know, not just like, you know, so the relationship, I think, interesting thing about the K-pop fandom, and for instance, like ARMY, is that it's not a relationship between like performers on the stage and fans on the floor. It's more of a kind of, you know, it's not that within the hierarchy. It is more of a kind of, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it, but it's more of a partnership, you know, rather than supporting, buying, streaming, you know, their favorite artist music. You know, I think it's totally opened the new. So that's why these days companies and other industry beyond music started to pay attention to ARMY, pay attention to other K-pop fandoms. Because it's more than just fans of music.
Definitely
Yeah.
true, yeah. And then we have Donia's question left, so Donia?
Yes, so earlier you said that K-pop girl groups or boy groups were used to be called factory groups. So my question is, do you think that K-pop reinvented the concept of boy and girl group nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, in many different ways. I mean, musically, again, like I said, BTS, for instance, they already went beyond kind of typical boy band sound, you know, and a lot of new groups, latest group, for me, seem to follow that kind of model. You know, they're not really limit themselves within this more typical boy band music. They're really, you know, cultivated their music style in many different ways. So I think nowadays K-pop is not just singular genre. I think it's more of a concept or world or industry that has many different genres together. So, well, I hope, this phenomenon of BTS and K-pop would further, you know, change the game in the U.S. as well. And I think it's already probably happening, because I mean, they already know that this new type or idea of boy bands is coming from South Korea, and but it's really hard to replicate, because I mean, it really kind of accumulated know-how and industry and knowledge and different approach to music. But I think it at least provided some insight to them.
Okay, I think following up with these amazing questions, I think we can go to all the questions that have already been asked by a lot of our viewers. So please do continue to send your questions. It's okay if you repeat your question sometimes, so we might, in case we missed it and you do want us to notice. Please do understand that due to a limited time frame, we will also have to pick questions here and there, and that we might not be able to address every question. So I think a few that I have seen pass by and that I find very interesting is what is your view, Mr. Kim, on the restructuring within Big Hit that is going to happen?
I don't know. Well, I think, I personally believe that the goal of Big Hit is not to, you know, simply create another boy band, another artist, another K-pop band. I think that the ultimate goal of BTS, it's just my personal opinion. I didn't hear anything from the company, but I personally believe that the ultimate goal of producer Bang Si-hyuk is trying to achieve is that a built kind of ultimate portal of some sort of fandoms. You know what I mean? It's not just Big Hit, it's not just BTS, it's not just K-pop, but they wanted to create something great, like space for fans who love a certain different, you know, types of culture, whether it's sport, whether it's anime, whether it's music or I don't know. It's it could be indie music, it could be hip hop. So it's not just K-pop. I think he might have a bigger picture. So I think that's why they kind of reinvented the concept of company and changed their names, built the bigger buildings and things like that. So yeah, again, I think he's already went beyond the current idea of K-pop or boy band or BTS or idol music.
Yes. Okay. So another question is, do you think that the fans' enthusiasm helps the conversation, like on basis of example the racism going on, etc.? Do you think the fans help in that case, or is it that the more tribal nature of the fans isolate the community and sort of add to difficulties of K-pop in the global market?
Well, there are pros and cons. I mean, sometimes fans' enthusiastic, passionate reaction to the media, to the racism, would definitely get a negative impact, negative result from. But it's the kind of culture. I mean, it's not just K-pop. It's not just BTS. It's the kind of culture we live in these days. You know, everyone has different ideas. You know, they really love yelling at each other. You know, they like to talk instead of listening. So, you know, fan activity, well, I think this definitely helped to open a new discussion, but I think they have to be really smart. You know, when I talked about the Bayern 3, the German broadcasters' comments, that's why I made that the remark. You know, instead of attacking someone or simply blaming someone, you know, I hope everyone be more active in discussing with them. You know, you can be frustrated too, but I think we, you know, should not abandon the possibility that persuade them, you know, and change their concept, change their misconception for K-pop and everything.
Another question I've seen appear is that there have been some groups lately focusing on a bit of the international supergroup concept, such as Super M, that has been made. How is your opinion about that? Does it help? Does it perhaps not help?
Well, Super M is really interesting example. I think it's exceptional. Well, both in a good way and bad way. What I mean by the exceptional is that it seemed for me that Super M, the goal of Super M is not to win the general audience in the U.S. You know, I don't think it's their goal. Even though the Capital produced it, promoted, I think the main target is still kind of general K-pop community in the U.S. So for me, Super M, you know, based on their music, based on their approach, it's super, yeah, it's Super M, right? It's SM Entertainment's group. It's, for me, it's more like a kind of sampler, you know, sampler menu that would display every good ingredients of SM Entertainment has. So for me, the goal of a Super M is not create a group can be popular among general public, but to showcase the potential and the know-how, the strength of this company, SM Entertainment. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking quickly what else I can see. A follow-up question about Hype and the whole restructuring of Big Hit. They have been embracing new technology, AI, cross-commercial structures like broad platforms. Is this positive, or do you see it as more of an issue, or?
Yeah, I mean, every technology has two different sides. I mean, you can definitely take advantage of it in a good way, but it definitely has some bad result, a negative result that you would not expect. I mean, there's this new trend in K-pop industry that to reviving kind of voices from dead musicians, you know, musicians that already dead, you know. So computer AI technology, you know, successfully revived their voices, you know, changed it, you know, mixed them with different voices with each other to create something new. I mean, revived voices to sing a new tune, so which is not really existed, you know, as a record. For me, it's definitely a new possibility, but the idea is very, I mean, scary, because the revived voice, revived artist, can we consider that as genuine art? You know, I know it sounds very perfect and sounds real, but it is really real. I mean, that's my question. You know, the same thing would be applied to the so-called like avatar or cyber artist. Yeah, well, technology and this computer thing would definitely be able to make it real person. But there's always a possibility that people abuse it with like something really horrible, like deepfake technology, you know, using them to create something awful. But can we protect it? I mean, that's another question. Because cyber computer generate figure artists, you know, will not technically human. So can we protect their rights, or should we? I think that's a whole other question, and it's kind of two different sides of technology. It's possibility, but it's also a I don't know. The idea is still needs a lot of attention from many different fields. Not just music. It's about the law, regulation, morals. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, panel members, do feel free to ask questions as well. If you see anything interesting you want to ask, or just have an interesting question yourself, please do. One little thing I also have seen appear is that previously there was talk about the Grammys. And how do you feel if possibly, somebody suggested that, if there was made a specific category for like K-pop, would that be a good thing, or does that cause an unnecessary segregation of the artists even more?
Yeah, I mean, in the mainstream scene in the U.S., it's definitely could be used as marginalizing K-pop. You know, not to include them, not including them as embracing them as mainstream. You know, it's like, well, we had a lot of like similar stories everywhere. You know, the latest American movie called Minari. The movie is about Korean immigrants' life, their struggles. It's Korean movie. I mean, you could say it's Korean movie, but it's definitely an American movie. But Golden Globe categorized as a foreign language film. It's technically right because I mean the language is Korean, but the intention of it, everyone knows, the intention of it is to give an award to foreign films, not actually foreign language film, but to foreign films. So it's nonsense in a way to give for foreign category to highly American films. But that's the reality, I think. That's still a reality toward, and the concept toward Asian art, Asian films, Asian music as a not really a mainstream or part of their category, but to separate them from their pre-existing category, to make it I mean, it's the justification, right? It also would give them a chance to pretend to recognize it, but actually ignore it at the same time, for that separate categorization. Yeah.
Okay. Does any of the panel members have a question?
Yeah,
I mean, you can say. I mean, you can answer if you have a better ideas. I mean, it's not really. I want this to be more open discussion rather than Q&A session. So.
Should I? Yeah, I totally agree about like not separating them in a different K-pop category, by the way. But another question I have is about the Grammy performance. I feel like a lot of BTS fans, a lot of ARMY, were really annoyed about the way that they milked it out, like put it all at the end. And what's your opinion about that? Because it makes me feel like they really know the impact BTS has.
Right.
Like they know how much fans there are and how much they queue, but like they don't really recognize them.
Yeah, I mean, we could have two different like attitude to that situation. I mean, first we could definitely be mad, angry because BTS didn't win, but still kind of used as clickbait for the viewing counts, for rating. But as someone who has worked as an insider in the music business, I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, not the worst thing at all. Because as long as you, I mean, by you, I mean BTS or Big Hit or ARMY or K-pop fandoms as well, as long as you can control or not totally used by the media, you can also take an advantage of that relationship. Because, I mean, let's think differently. So, the fact that BTS performed, second to last during the show and was being used as clickbait would definitely mean that they're the superstars right now. I mean, they're the superstar. It definitely means that they don't have any local star who have a similar star power or gravity that can ensure people not leave, to not leave the channel, not switch the channel. So in that sense, it's another proof that it's already changing. The game is already changing. Right now, no matter how mainstream U.S. industry, Grammy, Recording Academy is so adamant and so conservative, and not so reluctant to change their view. But still, it's happening. The change is coming because they already acknowledge this commercial power, and in pop music, commercial power is everything. It's a fundamental basis for a change, for the different status, for the agency and ownership. So as long as BTS is smart enough controlling the situation, as long as Big Kid, you know, smart enough, you know, taking advantage of this situation and the relationship with media, Recording Academy and or someone else. So it is, you can take it as an advantage. You know, you can use it. You know, it's not the worst thing. Again, so I definitely understand why fans are angry, mad. You know, they want to kill the Grammy. But again, that's not the worst thing, because we're talking about pop music. We're talking about money. We're talking about, you know, commercial appeal. So, and also, I talk a lot about conservatism in U.S. music industry and Grammy Committee and Recording Academy. But what I mean by, you know, conservative is that they're really slow. You know, it usually takes so much time for them to finally accept the new trend, new like streams and new genre. So, well, obviously there are many members, and like many people know that Recording Academy tried really hard to include, you know, more people from you know, not mainstream world. Like, you know, typically Recording Academy consists of white, male, middle-aged, you know, music industry people. But they started to embrace a lot of Asian, female, you know, or you can say more K-pop friendly voters. So I think that the change could be imminent, even though we are not really feeling it right now. But again, they're conservative people, you know, so I mean, strategically, it's good for us to have two different approach, two different strategies. On the one hand, we could respect them, respect the authority, respect the name value of the Grammys and other mainstream awards, but on the other hand, it doesn't matter. I mean, I mean, there used to be the one like ultimate sun in this galaxy of pop music, which is U.S. and probably UK. And there are a lot of like small, insignificant stars, planets, Latin, Asian, you know, Arabian, and you know, other types of music industry. But nowadays, actually, K-pop is really rising as another, like, it's not as big as the ultimate star called US or UK mainstream pop, but it has its own power. So you don't really need that. You don't really need the general audience of the US, general audience of the Western world. Actually, K-pop is dominating everywhere right now, including Europe.
Actually, to pick up on that specific aspect, do you think that the cultural, like the K-culture wave is actually more part of a global phenomenon of cultural change, or is it not actually? Because you mentioned the whole, like, it is dominating, so is it part of a global change actually, cultural-wise?
I couldn't follow your...
no, so the question they asked is, K-culture wave, is it actually part of a global phenomenon of cultural change?
Yeah, I mean, decades ago, you know, it's always like one directional flow. I mean, there's this like big, you know, U.S. mainstream, like whether it's TV drama or, you know, pop music or cinema, it always there's this creators, U.S., mainstream, and everything is, coming from them. So it's always one direction from the U.S. to the other side of the world. It's very linear, one directional flow, and this cultural traffic is very simple and very dominating. But nowadays, there's still dominant force, U.S., American, Western, but now it's kind of multi-directional. South Korean culture, going beyond the boundary, influencing a lot of different people, actually change their lifestyles and everything. So when we used to talk about the globalism, like cosmopolitanism, the words are great, really great words, but actually those words mean that Westernization, Americanization, kind of linear influence from Western world to other words. But now, with the help of K-pop and K-culture and Hallyu, it slightly, changed the mindset of people, of cultural consumers, that there are a lot of alternatives. We don't really have to follow the one directional, one linear model that U.S. or Western world created. We can choose, whatever we want, and it could still be influential in globally, because the media environment has changed a lot. Mainstream television, legacy media started to have less influence. We have social network, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. So K-pop, not just K-pop, but previously marginalized culture started to have their own opportunity to globalize themselves without the help of established promoters, established company, or bigger media powers. I think that's also the reason behind BTS global success. BTS never followed this kind of linear model of, K-pop's global success. K-pop, they used to have to follow this model, successful in the global local scene in Korea, then, adjacent East Asia, then Southeast Asia, then really start to build a relationship with Western company, promoters, bigger agency, recording company, broadcaster, slowly, build their reputation. But no, BTS just started, as a pop star using social media, without the help of this established global, force of media and promoters. And that idea, that success really tells us a lot of things and possibilities. Yeah.
So another thing that's been asked, of course, in Korea you have the mandatory military service. Do you think in the eye of the whole K-pop phenomenon, is that something that should change probably or not?
Well, it's a really delicate issue. It's called mandatory because it's mandatory. So, well, exceptions could be made, like something that used to apply for athletes, that who won the gold medal at the Olympic Games or World Cup. But in the end, I think the exception, the special rules are not really good thing, in the end, because okay, we could make a special regulation laws that particularly apply to a certain band like BTS or some other band. But how do we decide that you know, what kind of accomplishment could be needed for that exemption? You know, if K-pop is bigger and Billboard #1 is so common thing, then what then? Grammy Awards, it's a good thing, but it's basically individual accomplishment. You know, they're not like national teams or national representative, even though they look like it. So for now, you could be happy about the laws and new regulation that could essentially, you know, to not that have the mandatory military service. But in the end, it could be problematic. So I think the latest development, latest progress of that discussion, so to extend the period before they, so right now, before then, I'm not sure. They need to be drafted before, I think 25 years old, 24 years old. I mean, something like that. But now it's probably late 20s and 30s, early 30s, late 20s. I think extending the period is a good alternative. It's a good solution, so that they could spend the whole like I don't know, first peak of their career without worrying too much about the draft, and focusing on their global activity, you know, concert and music, record making. So yeah, I think that's a good solution. But exemption totally is not, for me personally, is not really a good solution.
No, indeed. So another question is, has been a stigma around K-pop, whether it is due to racism or negativism in media. Do you believe there will be a moment where we, as K-pop fans, but K-pop in general, will be able to get rid of that stigma and move on from it?
I know it's a process. I mean, we witnessed a great phenomenon of K-pop, but still within the pre-existing model of industry and hierarchy, K-pop is still a small thing for a lot of people. So there's going to be a lot of prejudice, a lot of racism, whether it's really explicit or implicit or inherent. I think that there are a lot of similar things that we witness through Grammys, Byron 3, the comments and everything, would resurface in very different situations. So we have to be really awakened in that sense. As a fan, as a music fan, as a critic, as a journalist, we all, as someone who supports this industry, should be really active, monitoring, again, fighting, debating, challenging, giving pressure on that.
Yes, that's definitely
situation.
true. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Also, there has been a rise in certain companies taking in even Caucasian people as to promote as a K-pop idol, or people from, not necessarily Caucasian, but are from America or are from Europe even recently. How is your take on that? Do you think it is a positive evolution, and will it change K-pop, or is it perhaps not necessary? Or
I'm sorry, I cannot quite. Yeah.
So there has been some European people becoming idols, or American people idols, white people, like Caucasian people also as well. Do you think it is a good thing for K-pop to have that new addition, to have that growth, or?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting phenomenon. Yeah, nowadays when I listen to a certain like American bands, British bands or European bands, sound and act like K-pop bands. So it's already happening. I think the reverse flow, the multi-directional influence, like mutual influence is already happening. I think it's, in a way, it's a good sign that it can be diverse, and it can give an opportunity that the influence, really good opportunity for people to witness this potential and influence K-pop as a global scene, a global phenomenon. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that, creating something exactly like K-pop would not easy at all.
No, that's
again,
true.
it's accumulated technology. It's not just sound. It's not just single like choreography or something like that. It's more than that. It's very delicate and really kind of complicated, mixture in a solution. So even though they're trying to replicate what K-pop is doing, it is really hard for them to really understand what's the nature of it.
Yes.
It has many different things, like relationship with fandoms, the idea of really good-natured, positive attitude in music that not many Western pop acts did in the past. So, yeah, they can definitely, follow the model, but I'm pretty sure it's not that really easy to replicate.
Yeah. Okay, so sadly we have to wrap up the question part. One little moment, panel members, my question to you is, can you each give a little bit of an impression to how this webinar was for you? So, Lucille, would you like to start?
Yeah, this webinar taught us a lot of the vision that the world has on BTS and the K-pop phenomenon, the global thing. So it's a good thing to actually think about it sometimes and just see how we can all provide something to improve, like the view on K-pop and BTS.
Okay, Ulrike, would you like to say something?
I think this was very interesting to see like a voice from the inside a bit, like you have a better like understanding of what it's all about, because we all we're fans, we're just angry at the Grammys and stuff. So it's really interesting to see your opinion about it and make it a bit more like nuanced for us. So I feel like it's very interesting. So thanks a lot.
Özlem, your turn?
Yeah, definitely. Even because I've been in army for like almost 4 years, but this felt like a new, fresh deep dive into BTS once again. And it was definitely interesting to see Dr. Kim's perspective on this whole thing, because like Ulrike said, we're just fans and we have a different way of thinking. And I think that I learned a lot too from today's webinar. So it was definitely really interesting. And thank you for your time, Dr. Kim.
Okay, Donia?
Yes, like everyone said, I found this webinar really interesting, and having another point of view from someone who has been in this industry, like analyzing it from like how many years, like more than 20 years. It's a really refreshing and interesting point of view. So thank you.
And last but not least, De Souza.
I think what is really interesting from this webinar is the change in perspective that we can have now as in regard to K-pop and BTS in general. Like he said, when things like racist comments happen or xenophobia, to like take that as a learning opportunity to like extend information to the other person, like why are you thinking like this, and how can we change as change the perception, especially because we're the insiders, we're the fans. We have the information to tell these people like, okay, you should try and see it from another perspective. So I think that's a very nice takeaway for us, because we are always in our bubble. We already know the positive, so we need to try and teach other people why K-pop and why BTS is so exceptional. So I think that is a very important message that I learned today.
Okay, thank you. I want to say, in general, thank you to all the panel members for taking the time to do this and offering all the insights, asking the questions, telling us more about the whole phenomenon of BTS. I also want to say thank you to all the viewers and the questions you have sent our way. I hope you had fun and that this was a great way to learn more about our topic in a nice and interesting, smooth way. So thank you for that. We also have some nice information. There will be a giveaway event for participants of the Zoom that have have subscribed beforehand, and this will happen by streaming on YouTube. So that will be in the next streaming, where you will get all that information. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. So thank you for your time, and this is where we have to close up the webinar. So thank you very much.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.